Hey, how y'all doing out there in YouTube land? This is Stiletto and Juno coming at you from the Wild Wild West. There's my girl. She gonna come up on the table. She wanna say hi to everybody. What you doing, huh? What you doing? You wanna come up here? Thinking about it? That's my girl. That's my girl. That's my co-host. She slept through the last video. She's up now though. That's my girl. Okay, this one's gonna be on the tie lights. The 4-inch blade tie lights. Absolutely love these two. I don't carry these though. I like to carry the tie light 6s. You all know that. These are only 3 that I have. As opposed to, I got a ton of tie light 6s. And there's Juno. She's making her appearance, making her entrance. Queen Juno. Queen Juno of the video scene. She's a video queen. A YouTube queen. That's my girl. That's my girl. Yes, she is. That's my sweetie. Are you gonna let us make the video now, Miss Queen Juno? Huh? That's my girl. You're all wide awake now, huh? Full of energy. Yes, you are. Except to the last one that we made. You didn't even come out for that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I know. Yes, my girl. All right, sweetie. Gotta get down so we can do the video. Gotta get down, kiddo. Can you get down? Go ahead, get down. That's my girl. That's my girl. Mm-hmm. All right. Let me see. Let's start off with this one. We're gonna do some weighing and thickness measuring also. I think that's all we need to do on these. We got to check the blade length too. We got to do these 3 things. Put this on the table so I remember to do them. Number 1. This is the very first one. Let me give you the history of this one. This one and the Archangels were my first cold steels. They're the ones that turned me on to cold steel. This is the original 2001 titanium tie light, made in Seiki, Japan. Had an Oz 8 blade, I believe. It doesn't say what type of blade steel it has on it, but I think it was Oz 8. Japanese AUS 8A, which was a fairly good steel back in the day. It was, considered like a high-end steel. And, most steels that, we think of as budget knife steels right now that have been around since for the last 20-something years. At one point when they first came out, those were the super steels. And they were ingot steels. They didn't have powdered steels yet. So, that they were like the high-end steels. And for Japan, the high-end steels were VG1 and Oz 8A. They replaced, 420J. 420J was only used in Sanmai after, at that point, at that part of time. The 420J was a high-end steel too back in the 60s and 70s, along with 420HC. So a lot of the things that you think that are budget now, at one point when they first came out, they were high-end steels. They weren't meant to be budget steels. But that other steels came out after them that were better, and they moved into the budget category. The sort of way steel works. So the steels that you think are really great now will eventually be budget steels, in the future, because there'll be steels that come out that are better than them. And they're already a lot of the powder steels are already getting replaced by MagnaCut and Elmax and what's the other one? Crewware. There's a lot of great steels nowadays. M390, 20CV. There's a 204P, CTS XHP. There's a lot of great steels nowadays, but eventually they will all be budget steels because there'll be something that comes out even better than them. Steels have really been progressing, especially like in the last 20 years, I would say. I've seen steels go, from being like ATS 34 and not CPM, but 154 CM, M2 speed steel. Those were all like the super, super duper good steels back in the day. Anyway, let's get on to this. When these first came out, they were made in Seiki, Japan. They used titanium for the handle scales and the liners. for the leaf spring. And I think the pocket clip was titanium too. I used to have two of these because you know me, I buy one to collect, buy one to use. And this was the collector. The user I sold to my buddy Mouse that I used to be in a motorcycle club with. We prospected together. And he really liked the one that I used to carry all the time, so I sold it to him. These are actually worth a lot of money now, especially ones in condition like this that are still like brand new. We'll get into weighing them and checking the blade thickness and all that kind of stuff at the end. This has a flat ground bayonet style blade. And it's not a full flat ground, I should say it's a saber flat ground bayonet style blade. Well, bayonets aren't full flat grounds. Bayonets mean that you have the flat right here, then you have the false edge wedge right here. Sometimes they're sharpened on, you know, real combat blades. And then you have this, the main part of your blade is a flat ground section, sharpened section, going into like a spear point or a dagger style blade. This is like a stiletto style bayonet blade. That's the way I would describe it. These knives were designed by Phil Bogoszewski. He's one he was a custom knife maker back in the day. And the knife that he was really famous for was this knife, the stilettos that he used to make. And he's the one that came to Cold Steel and designed this knife for Cold Steel. His knives would cost in excess of like $1,000 to $2,000 range. So this was an affordable version of one of his knives. Just like when Andrew Dimko came to Cold Steel, he let Cold Steel make his 8010 and 4 Max and so on. And those knives were real expensive at the time too, over $1,000. That's one thing Cold Steel was really good at, was getting designers like, you know, like Andrew Dimko and Phil Bogoszewski and other designers too to come to Cold Steel and make affordable versions of their knives. And unlike CRKT, the Cold Steel versions were almost just like the custom versions. CRKT's versions of, let's say, the Brian Ty Fighter and Brian Ty and Friends Fighter series is really a low budget series of knives. And it wasn't just those, they made them pretty much of all Brian Ty's knives they made copies of, but they're nothing like the real thing. Whereas these are pretty close to the real thing. Phil Bogoszewski is the one that had the folded over liners, heat treated liners. And these types of liner locks are actually pretty strong. They're known to hold up to like 145 pounds, which is like 50 pounds over a standard liner lock that's considered to be really strong. Because most liner locks fail about 50 pounds, foot-pounds of weight on weight hangs. The stronger ones could hold, you know, near 100 pounds, and then these would hold like 145. They'd be more into the frame lock range. So this is a very good knife. This one opens slow and stuff like that because I've never adjusted it or anything like that. I left it totally stock like it came from the factory. Next up, this was the next one I bought. And this one I bought when they first started making the Tylite 6s. I think it was like in between around 2005 to 2007. It was still before Andrew Dimko came to Cold Steel. These had the Zytel handles and the Zytel backspacer with the stainless steel liners and the stainless steel folded over leaf spring. It's really like a budget version of the titanium one. And the reason why they switched from titanium to 7075 aluminum and Zytel versions is because titanium became very expensive around that period of time. It's made exactly the same way though. And these were made in Taiwan instead of Seiki, Japan. It's when Cold Steel started moving things from USA. I think it was Camillus when the Camillus closed. Excuse me, people. Let me get a drink of water. I think it's when Camilla's closed that they try to do things a little bit more profitable for cold steel. And so they moved their plant from Seiki, Japan, their Asian plant, over to Taiwan. The Taiwan plant, produces very, very good knives too, just like the Seiki plant did. I think the Seiki plant was like a little touch above as far as like fit and finish and quality and stuff like that. But the Taiwan plant was still very acceptable. I mean, it's like, it's way better than have something that, let's say, made in the mainland China or whatever, because those plants were notorious at this time for making super cheap, junky knives. And the Taiwan plant wasn't doing that. Some of the best knives from Spyderco come from Taiwan, from the Taichung plant. So Taiwan's been known for making, good knives for a long time. Good quality products. But the steel, this one's Japanese AUS 8A. Let me see if I get it to show you. Japanese AUS 8A. Annealed. A stands for annealed. And the steel is still made in Seiki, Japan. It was just imported to Taiwan. Taiwan doesn't make the steel. The steel was imported to them. Very good knife. Very good knife. The newest one I have, this isn't a GSM knife. This is like the end of cold steel. But it's when they came out with the Filipino Chris. And this one is a Japanese AUS 10A steel. Let's see if you can read that. And it has the markings that they had before they transferred ownership to GSM. This one has a dagger Chris style blade, the Filipino Chris style blade. This one still has Zytel handle scales and a Zytel backspacer, but they're done in dark earth. The color dark earth or brown. Stainless steel liners, folded over liners, and pocket clip, just like this version has. I really love the Chris style blade. All right, let's get into some measurements. Let's see how much everything weighs first. First up, the titanium Tylite, 4.4 ounces. Second up, the second one I got, the Zytel version, 4.0 ounces. Remember, it's got steel liners, so steel liners, is what adds weight to it. The Chris blade, Filipino Chris, 3.7 ounces. That's a lot lighter. This be the blade style is probably lighter than this blade style. That'd be my guess. Because the handles are basically the same. The only thing that's really different are the blades. And a bayonet blade, remember, it's a flat ground. It's a saber flat ground blade, so it has a fairly thick portion for a good length of the blade, whereas this one is more of a dagger grind. Has a good tip though. The tip looks thicker than the bayonet. I really like the Chris blade. The one that stays in my rotation drawer right now is a serrated Chris blade with the black Zytel handles. But originally it had the dark earth handles. I think I swapped them around and made it black. They might be making a black one now though. I think they even have a DLC coated one now with the Zytel handles, which is really nice. I thought about getting one of those too. Because you know me, I love my Tylite 6s. That's really like the only liner lock knife that I really like. And because one reason why I like it is because I know the history of it. I know most people, when they see one, they just think it's a cold steel knife. No, it's a Phil Bogaczewski knife. And he's not around anymore. I think he died around like in 2013 or something like that. He passed away. And he was a famous knife maker, famous for making really nice stilettos, exotic custom stilettos that cost, like, and $1,000 and up. And that's what these knives are. These knives are supposed to be the affordable versions of his knives. And so I know a little bit more about the history of them, so it makes them a little bit more desirable to me. But people that don't know the history of them, they just see a cold steel stiletto that you can get for $50. You know what I mean? But even though these are upwards of $200 now if you want one of these now, just because of the collectability of them and the rarity of them, and that they're the first ones that they were made, and they were titanium. That's why they call them Ti-lights. Ti stands for titanium. But even though they don't make them out of titanium no more, they still kept the name Ti-light. All right. So we got the weighing done. Let's find out how thick they are. Get zeroed out. The original one, 2.3. Oh, it's a 3 millimeter thick blade. 3 millimeters. This one says 2.9497, same thing, 3 millimeters. So I expect this one to be 3 millimeters too. 2.93, same thing, 3 millimeters. I would call it 3 millimeters. Blade length. Right at 4 inches. Right at 4 inches. Right at 4 inches. So they're a true 4-inch blade. All right, people. Well, that's about all I got on these. I just want to make a little short video. I didn't want to mix this with other brands or other models because these are the Ti-lights are, I don't know, to me they're kind of like a sacred knife. I don't know, it's like, because I know the history of them, and they were like the first knives. These and the Archangels were like the first knives that I purchased that really turned me on to cold steel. Then after that, I started buying nothing but cold steels for a long time. Pretty much until they were getting ready to sell. Lindsey Thompson's getting ready to sell the company to GSM. Pretty much the only knives I would buy would be cold steel knives, especially after they came out with the triads. And I think the first knives I started trying to try out besides the cold steels, because I had looked at them for a long time, were the Manix 2XLs. The Manix 2XLs. And I always loved the Andrew Dimko knives, but I never got an Andrew Dimko knife because I would get his versions of the cold steel knives. The Voyager's an Andrew Dimko knife, the Recon 1's an Andrew Dimko knife, the Tau War's an Andrew Dimko knife, the Spada's an Andrew Dimko knife, the AK-47s are Andrew Dimko knives, both the fixed blades and the folders, and the Warcrafts are Andrew Dimko knives. And the only other knives I really bought a lot of were like the Lindsey Thompson designs, like the Magnum series, fixed blades, and pretty much all the triad folders that came with triad lock types were collaborations between Andrew Dimko, like the American Lawman, and Lindsey Thompson. The American Lawman, as my understanding, was based on Lindsey Thompson's 8010 series, but it was lightened up because Lindsey Thompson wanted to have a lighter knife. So it's basically a light version. Same thing with the Ultimate Hunter. And a lot, thanks to Lindsey Thompson and his collaborations with Andrew Dimko, we got a lot of knives that were very strong, super strong, but lighter in weight. Because Andrew Dimko always likes to make super heavy duty things. And he likes to put a lot of liners, and because he's all about performance. He's all about strength and performance and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Lindsey Thompson brought into the picture the fact that he wanted to make things light and fast in hand, like a fighting knife, like a good self-defense knife. The Raja series is a collab between Lindsey Thompson and Andrew Dimko also. Pretty much all the ones that you really like, if you did some research, you'd find out they're really Andrew Demko and Lindsey Thompson knives. They were a good partnership. And for me, they will be missed because I know GSM is trying to do the Andrew Demko, Lindsey Thompson thing, but they're not quite there. You know, I mean, the Atlas lock is not an Andrew Demko knife. I've heard people say it's an Andrew Demko knife. It's not an Andrew Demko knife. It's not a knife a lock type that he was trying to make before he left Cold Steel. He already had the shark lock, and that's not what he was trying to do. It's a GSM knife. I mean, I think they were basing it on his shark lock knife. That'd be my evaluation of that. But is it as good as a shark lock? No. Is it a good lock? Yes. But it's not a good. It's not on the same level or par with an Andrew Demko shark lock knife. But it is very good, though. It is very good. It's better. I would say it's better than the Axis lock. To me, it would be a lock that I would depend on a little bit more than the Axis lock. And to me, an Axis lock type is a very good lock type. But you know, it's not Axis lock. I like Axis locks more than I like frame locks or liner locks, or even compression locks, because I would trust them more than a compression lock too. Especially if it's done right. The Axis lock has to have strong liners, and it has to have a strong what do you call it, the lock bar or whatever, the bar that goes across the blade tang. That has to be strong too. So those like the two areas. If it doesn't have that, then it, probably more prone to failing. So whenever you get an Axis lock knife, you want stainless steel liners, and because stainless steel is stronger than titanium. Titanium is more fancy, it's more expensive, it's more exotic, and it's lighter than steel, but it's not stronger than steel. Heat treated steel. So sometimes you want, and like for these knives, the knife that cut me up really bad was a Benchmade AFCK, because I used to carry those at the same time I carried this one. And it had the titanium liner lock like this has. And the titanium, after, you flick it, you like to fidget with it, you flick it out, open and close it real fast all the time. It wears down because it's not as strong as the blade tang is. So the blade tang of the knife wears it down, and you develop up and down blade play. Because I used to like the Darryl Ralph stilettos for mega folders. They had like the 5.5 inch blades, and they were like a big long stiletto style blade that's made out of D2, but they had titanium liner locks. And so after getting cut up from that, the Benchmade they had, the AFCK that I had, I decided I didn't want those, so I sold them all. I sort of wish I would have kept them because they're worth a lot of money now. They're worth like $500 or $600, $800 now. And back in the day, I was buying them for like $125 or something like that. Same thing with my Archangels. But I got a good price for those when I sold those. I got $600 a piece for them, and I sold them as a set of 3. I had all 3 different blade types. Sold them for $1,800, and I paid $110 a piece for them when I first bought them, because I bought them when they first came out, before titanium was expensive. Around the same time I bought this knife. But titanium knives, titanium is a really cool exotic material, but is it my favorite material? No, it's not. I'm just being honest. I know it's the bee's knees. Everybody wants titanium and everything, but does it really make something really better, as opposed to a lot of the other materials? It's better than Zytel. It's better than G10 probably, and it's better than Micarta or something like that. But it also adds weight. Titanium's heavier than Micarta. It's heavier than G10. So if you want to keep the weight down, sometimes I think it's better to use Micarta or G10. Because, a G10 knife, a good American G10 knife, using good American G10, has a very good tensile strength. But it's not, it's not quite like titanium, but it's really near to aluminum though. And so you can make a really strong knife, like the Recon ones, and the Tau Wars, and the AK-47s, and the American Lawmans, the Holdouts. There's a lot of knives that were made by Cold Steel where they just use American G10. American G10 is a little bit different than like the G10 that you get from China. American G10 is strong. I've had knives from China that had American G10 and the G10 actually failed. But I never had American G10 fail on any of the Cold Steel knives I had. And so it's a little bit different. So you want to make sure it's American G10. That'd be my advice. Because American G10 tends to be a stronger, or whatever kind of G10 that the Cold Steel use. I know they used to always advertise as being American G10. But that G10 holds up very well. It's very strong and doesn't need steel liners or whatever. Is it as strong as a knife with steel liners with G10 handle scales? No. I would say no. But is it strong enough? Yes. We've all seen the weight hang test and the spine whack test that Andrew Dimko used to do. And just about all those knives were with knives without liners, just American G10 handle scales. And they would beat knives that had steel liners and American G10, like, a lot of the Benchmade Bedlam and the Axis Lock, it went up against, I think, was it the Espada, or was it I think it might have been a Tau War that it went up against. And the Tau War, held a lot more weight than that one did. I think that one fell like at 398 or something, almost 400 pounds. The Bedlam, and the Bedlam was like a 7.2 ounce knife, whereas the Tau War was like a 4.9 ounce knife. So it's just something to think about. Do you really have to have, a heavy handle material for a knife to be strong, especially if it has like a really good locking system, like a triad locking system? That's one of the things that people don't really realize about triad locks is that they don't have to have a lot of weight to be really strong. They could have fairly thin American G10 handle scales and be a very lightweight knife, like around 4 to 5 ounces, and be stronger than a knife that weighs 7.2 ounces or 7 to 8 ounces. It's made with a different type of Loctite that has heavy duty materials in the handle. But anyway, people, just a little bit of food for thought. I really absolutely love these knives. These are knives that I don't carry though, because of the size of them. I prefer the Tylite 6 over these. And so this one I used to carry until they came out with the Tylite 6, and then I sold it to my buddy Mouse. And I started carrying the Tylite 6s when I was in the motorcycle clubs. And that was like my favorite knife to carry. All right, people. Absolutely love these. Phil Bogojiski, thank you. Rest in peace, brother. Peace out, Stiletto.